Comment below with your location and the time where you are. When I bought this ranch, I imagined serenity. Endless skies, cattle moving at sunrise, and a heavy wooden gate shutting each evening with a solid thud. After 3 decades of construction work, lungs full of dust, and neighborhood rules dictating mailbox colors, I crave quiet. I wanted space without some clipboard warrior nagging about community codes. My place sat right outside Pine Hollow, a massive subdivision ruled by its HOA, where regulations outnumbered the state charter. Thankfully, my deed put me beyond their reach. No dues, no membership, no president telling me what to do. That boundary was my gate, a big cedar frame with iron hinges I built myself, stretching across my gravel drive. My line in the dirt, and I was proud of it. I hadn't even lived here a month when I met her. Karen, perfect blonde bob, oversized shades, brand new SUV with a bold HOA bumper sticker. She slowed, cracked her window, and offered a smile that never touched her eyes. "Nice place," she said. "Thanks," I answered. Then, without hesitation, she hit the gas and plowed straight through my shut gate. The hinges squealed, cedar scraped gravel, and before I could react, she was halfway across my pasture, kicking up dust like royalty late to a parade. I stood frozen. Maybe she was lost, I thought. Maybe her GPS marked my ranch as a shortcut. But the smug wave in her rear view said otherwise. That night, I fixed the gate, muttering driving posts deeper and reinforcing hinges. Chalked it up to bad manners and prayed it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. A week later, same scene. I heard her SUV cresting the hill and watched her crash through my gate full speed. No pause this time. I stormed onto the porch, arms flailing. "That's private land," I yelled. She leaned out laughing. "Community easement," she shouted back. "Community easement?" My blood boiled. I knew my deed word for word. No easement, no shared road, no right-of-way. But she said it like scripture. That evening at the feed store, 2 old-timers shook their heads when I mentioned her. "Karen's cutting through your land?" one asked, spitting seeds into a cup. "Afraid so," I muttered. "Good luck," the other said. "She runs that HOA like a fiefdom. Folks been fighting her for years. Best leave it." I didn't like that advice. Letting her smash through my gate weakly like she owned the place? Not happening. By the 3rd time, I caught her red-handed. Stacking wood by the barn, I heard gravel crunch. I dropped the logs and marched over. She sat idling, smirk plastered on her face. "You should really keep this open," she quipped. "This is my gate," I shot back. "On my land. You're trespassing." Her chin lifted, lips curling like she'd tasted vinegar. "Don't be selfish. This cuts 10 minutes off my commute. Call it community spirit." I laughed bitterly. "Lady, this is trespass. You're wrecking my property." Her smirk hardened. "You're new. Maybe you don't get it. The HOA sets the rules here. You're not above them." That was the first time I heard HOA spoken like divine law. I told her to turn around. She didn't. She tore through anyway, spraying dust on my boots. Fixing the gate after that wasn't about hinges anymore. It was about principle. Every split board felt like an insult. Every dent was her mockery. Worse, other board members joined in. Soon I saw a caravan of HOA cars cruising across my pasture like it was their new road, waving at me like I was hired help. One day, I opened my mailbox to find an envelope. HOA letterhead. Violation notice. "Dear resident, you are in breach of HOA standards for unsightly structures. The ranch gate does not conform to community aesthetics. Remove immediately or face fines." I laughed out loud. I wasn't even in their HOA. My land was separate, deeded free and clear. Yet there was black ink ordering me to destroy the very gate they kept smashing. I drove to the clerk's office to check. No easements, no HOA ties. My gate was mine. Still, that letter was a shot across the bow. Karen wasn't just entitled, she was waging war. And after 30 years building houses, I knew every wall, roof, and gate only stands if someone's willing to defend it. Karen thought paperwork and SUVs would scare me. She underestimated me. She wanted shortcuts. I built foundations. By the end of month 1, my peaceful ranch was a battlefield. Karen wasn't just using my land. She flaunted it. The more I resisted, the bolder she became. First mornings, then afternoons, even midnight. I'd be feeding horses and hear her SUV growl through the dark, headlights cutting across my drive like a toll road she refused to pay. One Sunday, I blocked her path with my old Chevy. Parked inside the gate, sat on the tailgate sipping coffee. Sure enough, she came roaring up. Slowed, leaned out, smug as ever. "You're wasting your time," she sneered. "This road belongs to everyone." "No, ma'am," I replied calmly. "This road belongs to me. Says so in the deed." Her glasses flashed. "You can't own land that blocks community access. Illegal." I almost choked laughing. I'd checked records twice. She was bluffing, but so smooth it sounded like gospel. "Turn around," I told her. Her smirk deepened. "Move your truck." We locked eyes a full minute. She finally huffed, reversed, and tore off. I thought I'd won. Next day, I came home to my gate lying flat. Posts broken, hinges twisted, fresh tire tracks across my pasture. Karen had escalated, and she wasn't alone. That week, more HOA cars rolled through. A minivan with a Pine Hollow decal, a sedan with a Treasures nameplate. It wasn't random. It was coordinated. I tried reason again. Don't ask me why. Walked into the HOA office one evening. Place looked like a law firm. There sat Karen, polished desk stacked with binders. She looked up like I was dirt on her marble. "We need to talk," I said. "Oh, good," she said sweetly. "You're here about your fines." "My what?" She slid a sheet over. "Violations, unapproved structures, unkempt land, failure to comply with road easements. Total, nearly $300. "You've lost it," I barked. "I'm not in your HOA." Her voice sharpened. "Don't play games. Every property here falls under our charter." "That's a lie," I snapped. County clerk confirmed. "I'm outside your lines." She leaned back, nails tapping her chair. "Boundaries bend when community welfare demands. Boundaries are law." I shot back. "And mine don't bend." Her lips thinned. "You'll regret your stubbornness." That's when I knew it wasn't a disagreement. It was attrition. She'd harass, fine, or intimidate until I caved, and she'd back up. Days later, while I fixed a fence, a wiry board member stomped up, clipboard in hand. "Sir, you can't keep rebuilding that gate. The HOA has voted. Road stays open." I wiped sweat off. "Funny, I never voted in your HOA, because I'm not in it." He scribbled, muttering about penalties. "You'll need more than that clipboard to scare me," I said. He stormed off. That night, near midnight, wood cracked. I bolted outside. Gate smashed again. In the distance, Karen's SUV taillights faded. No excuses this time, just defiance. I stood in the dark, fists tight, staring at wreckage. My ranch didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt invaded. At the store next morning, I heard whispers. "She's cutting through again. Won't end well." But nobody beats Karen. Sheriffs on speed dial, clerks in her pocket. That's when I realized law wouldn't help. Karen wouldn't stop. She believed she didn't have to. In her head, the HOA was untouchable, and she was queen. But I wasn't built to roll over. Years in construction taught me, if something keeps collapsing, don't patch it. Rebuild stronger. Steel, not wood. As I gathered broken planks, a dangerous thought rooted. What if next time Karen's shortcut didn't end with splinters, but something she couldn't shrug off? That night, I sat on the porch under the stars, running it over. Karen thought this was a game of fines and notices, but I was done playing. I'd set a trap, and when she hit it, she wouldn't forget. By now, every SUV growl set my pulse racing. Karen had burrowed under my skin like few ever had. It wasn't about a gate anymore. It was about respect, about whether land was truly yours if someone else claimed it. Next morning, another envelope. Violation notice. Ranch entrance obstructs community traffic. Remove gate in 7 days or pay $250 daily fines. My hands shook. I wasn't even in their HOA, yet they thought fake fines could break me. That afternoon, Karen herself marched up, heels clacking on my steps, clipboard in hand like a judge. "You've been warned," she declared, waving the letter. "Remove the gate, or legal action follows." I leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. "Karen, this isn't your land. This isn't your road. You don't make rules here." Her face flushed. "I am president of Pine Hollow HOA, and every road here, I cut her off. This isn't your jurisdiction. My deed proves it." For a flicker, she faltered, but she wasn't one to concede. Straightening her blazer, she jabbed the paper toward me. "You're selfish," she hissed. "You're denying your neighbors. This road is a public benefit." I couldn't help laughing. "You mean a shortcut for your coffee runs? Don't dress it up as noble." Her eyes narrowed. Venom dripped from her voice. "You'll regret this." She spun on her heel and stormed off. The following week turned into a circus. HOA board members began parading around my ranch like inspectors on assignment. Clipboard men showed up uninvited, peering over fences like carrion birds. They snapped pictures of my barn, livestock, even the hay stacked behind the shed. I confronted one wiry fellow with hollow eyes and a sly grin. He had the gall to say, "Documenting violations." "Violations of what?" I demanded. "Community standards," he replied. I barked out a laugh. "This isn't your community." He didn't answer, just scribbled notes and walked away. That night, as I rocked on my porch, tires ground over the gravel again. Karen's headlights slashed through the dark. She didn't hesitate at the gate. She rammed straight through what little patchwork I'd managed. My dogs went wild, horses panicked, and she sped across my land like it was a racetrack, vanishing into the night. Something inside me shifted then. Annoyance hardened into resolve. The breaking point came 3 nights later. Near midnight, tires screeched and would exploded. I stormed outside, shotgun over my shoulder, more show than threat. The gate lay shattered once again. Only this time, Karen wasn't alone. 3 vehicles barreled through. Hers in front, 2 board members behind. They hollered like teenagers sneaking into a carnival, headlights bouncing across my pasture. I shouted until my throat gave out, but they didn't slow. They were staking their claim. My land was theirs now. The next morning, I drove to the sheriff's office to complain. The deputy leaned back, chewing a toothpick, then shook his head. "No video, no case. Your word against hers. And you know she's got pull. She'll spin it like you're blocking a community road." That was that. The law wasn't on my side. Fuming, I gripped the steering wheel all the way home, knuckles white. If the law wouldn't protect me, I'd do it myself. That evening, as I hammered hinges onto another makeshift gate, Karen pulled up. This time, no fake smiles. "You're wasting your time," she said, stepping out of her SUV. "We'll keep driving through until that gate's gone. Accept it." Sweat running down my back, I straightened. "You think you own me? Think again. This is my land, and I'll defend it." Her smile was polished, cold. "We'll see. The board votes tomorrow. We're removing your gate, with or without you." I held her gaze, then leaned forward just enough. "You've got your board. I've got something better, a spine and a plan." For a flicker, doubt shadowed her face. Then she masked it, slipped back in her SUV, and sped off. That night, I sat at my kitchen table sketching on scrap paper. Wood wasn't cutting it. Hinges weren't cutting it. If I wanted her to stop, I needed something she couldn't ram through with arrogance and horsepower. Something that fought back. Steel, reinforcement, hidden teeth. The longer I drew, the sharper the idea became. This wasn't just another gate. It was a trap. A barrier that wouldn't just hold her, it would humiliate her. I chuckled under my breath. Karen had been treating my land like her private speedway for weeks. Soon, she'd learn some gates don't just swing. Some gates bite. By lantern light, I set my course. I was done reacting, done repairing. The next move was mine. And when Karen came barreling through again, she'd find out what happens when a man's patience runs dry. I rose before dawn the next day with a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. Enough was enough. Karen and her HOA cronies thought I was beaten. They'd forgotten one thing. I wasn't a quitter. I was a builder. 3 decades raising houses from dirt, fixing beams that had rotted through, pouring foundations that defied storms. If I could build a home to withstand a hurricane, I could build a gate to withstand Karen. But this wouldn't be just a gate. It would be a snare. I started with steel, not the flimsy hardware store kind, but industrial beams salvaged from a demolition job years back. They'd rusted behind the barn until now, but they gleamed with new purpose. For posts, I drilled deep, planting 6-foot steel columns in concrete, reinforced with rebar cages. Each one could take thousands of pounds of pressure. I welded crossbars, angled braces, hidden supports. What looked like a ranch gate from the outside was a fortress within. I faced it with cedar planks, rustic camouflage for the steel skeleton. From the road, it looked ordinary. Up close, it was unbreakable. But I wasn't finished. Stopping her SUV wasn't enough. I wanted to end the shortcut for good. So I dug shallow trenches beyond the gate and planted tire shredders, steel spikes set in concrete troughs, hidden under gravel. If anyone tried to ram through, the gate would hold, and the spikes would chew their tires to ribbons. It was born of frustration, but built with precision. Every weld flawless, every measurement exact. I labored through the night, lantern flickering on polished steel, sweat dripping. My dogs lay nearby, eyes track. Kimmy like they knew I was gearing up for war. Neighbors slowed on the main road, curiosity in their eyes. One or two asked, "Fixing the gate again?" "Not fixing," I answered with a grin. "Upgrading." They raised brows but didn't press. Around here, you don't meddle in another man's feud. Of course, word reached Karen. On the third day, I spotted her SUV lurking just beyond the property line, engine idling. Through tinted glass, she watched, phone in hand, maybe recording. I kept at it, hammer clanging against steel, refusing her the satisfaction. Finally, she rolled down the window. "You really think you can stop progress?" she sneered. I didn't glance up. "No, but I can stop you." Her laugh was sharp, brittle. "We'll see. The board meets tomorrow. We're filing an injunction." Sparks flew from my welder as I muttered, "Good luck." She sped off, gravel spraying. That night, my buddy Hank came by. Old rancher, leather face, calloused hands. He leaned on a post, watching sparks fly. "You're playing with fire," he said. "She's got the sheriff on speed dial. One wrong move, and she'll scream harassment. Then I'll make sure it doesn't backfire." He studied me, then chuckled. "Hell, I like your style. Need an extra hand?" Together, we finished it, tightened bolts, tested welds, checked every seam. By the time we stepped back, soaked in sweat, the gate stood proud. To the eye, it looked just like the old one. But inside, not even close. By the 5th day, the trap was done. The gate swung easy on reinforced hinges, locked into steel brackets sunk in concrete. Trenches were gravel-covered, spikes invisible unless you knew. Posts painted to mimic cedar. To the casual passerby, it looked like the same flimsy wooden gate Karen had smashed a dozen times. But to me, it looked like justice. That evening, as sunset painted the sky, I sat on my porch, dogs at my feet, staring at the finished work. My hands blistered, my back aching, but my heart steady. For weeks, Karen had treated me like a pushover. Thought fines, threats, and SUVs made her untouchable. But bullies always meet a wall they can't knock down. Tomorrow, she'd find out how hard that wall could hit. I leaned back, whispered to the quiet night, "Come on, Karen. I'm ready." The snare was set. All I had to do was wait. And Karen wasn't the patient type. She had to win, had to dominate. Sooner or later, she'd come charging again. Didn't take long. On a bright Saturday, the familiar growl of her SUV grew louder, rattling gravel as it drew near. I set my coffee on the porch rail and leaned back, waiting. There she was, perfect hair, oversized sunglasses, jaw clenched with that smug determination. Behind her, 2 more cars, the treasurer's maroon van and another board member sedan. A convoy of arrogance. Karen didn't ease off the gas. If anything, she sped up, as if smashing my gate gave her strength. I held my breath as she closed in. Then it came. Her bumper struck the gate. Only this time, it didn't splinter. It didn't even shudder. Anchored in steel and concrete, it stood immovable. The crash rang out like a gunshot. Metal meeting metal, the echo of finality. Her SUV jolted violently. The SUV's front end buckled with a brutal crunch. Airbags detonated, white smoke curling from shattered windows. Tires screamed against gravel before the reinforced steel brought her to an abrupt, humiliating halt, like a bug pinned in glass. Then came the spikes. As her rear wheels crossed the hidden trench, the steel teeth tore in, shredding rubber with a series of violent pops. Within seconds, her vehicle sagged, hissing and groaning, crippled beyond repair. The convoy behind her panicked too late. The minivan swerved into a ditch, fishtailing before choking to a stop. The sedan braked hard, horn blaring, narrowly avoiding a pileup. Dust settled over the wreckage, hanging in the hot air like the aftermath of a skirmish. Silence lingered. Then came the shrieking. Karen burst from her SUV in a cloud of airbag dust, coughing, face twisted in fury. "What have you done?" she screeched, pointing at me like I'd committed some crime against humanity. I didn't budge from my porch chair, calm as a preacher on Sunday morning. My dogs barked but stayed pressed against my legs, tense and watchful. "What I've done," I called back steady, "is stop you from trespassing." Her voice pitched high, nearly cracking. "This is illegal. You've endangered lives." I stood, walked down the steps, and approached the wreck. Up close, the carnage was plain. Bumper crumpled like a crushed can, airbags sagging, fluid dripping onto the dirt. Still, I smiled. "You were warned. Again and again. This is on you." She stomped the ground, trembling. "You're finished. The HOA will drown you in lawsuits." "On what grounds?" I asked flatly. "You trespassed through a locked gate. That's the crime here." I pulled a small remote from my pocket, held it up, and this time I got cameras rolling. I pointed to the posts. Tiny red lights blinked from discreet cameras. Karen's expression faltered, her face paling under the makeup. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "Oh, I would." By then, neighbors had gathered on the roadside, drawn by the crash. Phones were out, recording everything. Laughter rippled when they saw Karen stranded and sputtering. "Looks like the queen lost her crown," someone called out, triggering a wave of chuckles. The HOA treasurer limped out of the minivan, still clinging to his clipboard. He tried to speak, but the crowd drowned him with jeers. The sedan driver didn't even leave his car. He sat with his head in his hands. Karen spun on the neighbors, screeching, "Stop laughing. This is a serious violation." But the harder she screamed, the louder the laughter grew. The sight of Pine Hollow's tyrant humiliated in broad daylight was too delicious for anyone to resist. I stood with arms folded, soaking in the moment. The sheriff finally arrived, lights flashing. He stepped out, surveying the wreck with raised brows. "What on earth happened here?" Karen ran to him, desperate. "He set a trap. He sabotaged the road. He could have killed us." The sheriff turned to me. "True. No," I said evenly. "This isn't a public road. It's my property she's been smashing through for weeks." I reinforced my gate and installed cameras. Footage has it all. Karen's jaw dropped. "You can't, ma'am." The sheriff cut her off sharp. "You've been warned before. If the cameras show what he says, you'll be the one in hot water." The crowd erupted in cheers. Phones lifted high, catching every word. Karen flushed scarlet, eyes darting desperately, but for once she had nothing left to say. I walked up to her crippled SUV, tapped the hood, and raised my voice for the crowd. "Shortcuts closed, Karen." Laughter roared across the road. Karen buried her face in her hands, cursing under her breath, before retreating back into her ruined vehicle. The sheriff shook his head. "We'll review the footage, but from what I see, you're in the clear." Tow trucks hauled away the wreckage as neighbors lingered, still laughing. And for the first time in weeks, I felt peace. Karen had finally discovered the hard truth. Not every gate breaks. Some gates fight back. But if there's one thing about Karen, it's that she never stayed beaten. Even humiliated, she was more dangerous than ever. The next morning, a thick envelope landed in my mailbox. Inside was a stack of legal papers stamped with official seals. Notice of action. According to the documents, the HOA was suing me for reckless endangerment, property damage, and obstruction of a community easement. They demanded I remove my gate, pay emotional damages for Karen and her board, and cover the repair costs of her SUV. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. But anger simmered beneath. Months of trespassing and vandalism. And somehow, I was the villain. I wasted no time. In town, I met with Martha, a sharp-eyed attorney with decades in property law. She skimmed the papers, smirked, and shook her head. Classic HOA overreach. They got no jurisdiction. They're bluffing, hoping you cave. Well, I said, caving isn't in my vocabulary. She grinned. Good. Then this will be fun. Within a week, she filed a countersuit. Trespassing, property destruction, harassment, and attempted fraud. And thanks to my cameras, we had airtight evidence. Every crash, every phony fine, every smug grin. Karen, instead of backing down, escalated. 2 days later, I came home to find her and several board members outside my gate, shouting for the whole street to hear. This man is dangerous, one bellowed. He set traps that could have killed children, another added. Karen waved papers like a war flag. We cannot allow this menace to endanger our community. He will pay. But this time, the crowd didn't rally behind her. Neighbors muttered, shook their heads, raised their phones. The tide had turned. I stepped onto my porch, voice loud and clear. You want the truth? Watch the footage. Every crash, every trespass, every fake fine, it's all there. And you've all seen it with your own eyes. This isn't about safety. It's about control. The murmurs became shouts. We're tired of the HOA's bullying, one neighbor yelled. Another added, he's right. Karen shrieked. Lies? All lies. But cracks had already formed in her kingdom. The real collapse came in court. Karen strutted in wearing a bright red suit, board members trailing like nervous ducklings. She preened for the room like a politician on parade. Her lawyer thundered that I was a deranged recluse, obsessed with imaginary property rights, endangering the community with my booby-trapped gate. Then Martha rose, calm and lethal. Your Honor, she said, the evidence proves my client's property is beyond HOA jurisdiction. Their claims are fraudulent, and the only danger came from their own reckless trespassing. She clicked a remote. The courtroom screens lit up. Video after video. Karen's SUV slamming into the gate, spikes tearing her tires, neighbors laughing. Earlier clips showed her ramming through again and again, barking about community easements. The room buzzed. Even the judge's brow arched, unimpressed. When Karen took the stand, she imploded. I'm the president, she shouted. He cannot defy me. He cannot defy the HOA. The gavel slammed. This is a court of law, not your boardroom. Sit down. Her credibility disintegrated. The judge swiftly dismissed every HOA claim. Instead, the judge ruled against the HOA, ordering them to compensate me for trespassing and damaging my property. Karen herself was slapped with fines for harassment and reckless driving. And the best part? The security footage was admitted into the public record, which meant it could be requested and leaked. It didn't take long. Within days, clips of Karen's SUV crashing into my gate spread across social media like wildfire. The internet couldn't get enough. Memes popped up overnight. HOA Karen versus the Gate of Justice. Someone even edited a video with epic music, freezing on her stunned expression with the caption, "You shall not pass." Her humiliation was absolute. Back in Pine Hollow, the fallout hit hard. Neighbors who'd stayed quiet for years finally spoke out. Complaints poured in. Fake fines, threats, intimidation. Board members began resigning one by one, refusing to sink with Karen's ship. By the end of the month, the HOA's image was destroyed, its funds bled dry by lawsuits and Karen's recklessness. She was left isolated, stripped of authority, and her influence shattered. One evening, I sat on my porch, sipping coffee as the sun dipped behind my now indestructible gate. The victory tasted sweeter than the drink. The battle wasn't just won, it had been exposed. When the courtroom dust settled, Pine Hollow felt like a whole new place. For the first time since I'd moved in, mornings were quiet. No roar of Karen's SUV. No parade of board members acting like my ranch was their shortcut. Just the whisper of wind through grass, the soft snore of horses, and the creak of my porch chair as I drank my coffee. It was peace, the kind of peace I'd dreamed of when I bought the land. But I wasn't naive. With people like Karen, silence doesn't mean surrender. It means regrouping. So I stayed alert. Weeks slipped by, though, and all I saw of her was a flash of blonde hair as she slipped in her house, avoiding every neighbor's gaze. Word spread quickly. Pine Hollow buzzed with stories of her downfall. The once untouchable HOA president had become a cautionary tale, her name spoken with ridicule and amusement. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd finally learned her lesson. Then came a certified letter from Karen. She offered a settlement if I'd take down my hostile gate and allow limited community access. She dropped all her remaining complaints and dressed the whole thing up in polite talk about moving forward and healing divisions. I laughed out loud. Healing divisions? No, this wasn't peace. This was her last attempt to claw back control. So I wrote her a reply. 1 page. 2 sentences. There is no community easement. I own the road, and I have the deed to prove it. Here's the twist. While Karen had been writing bogus fines and screaming about community rights, I've been quietly digging through county records. And not only was my ranch outside HOA jurisdiction, I found out the road she loved so much, the one she swore was public property, wasn't public at all. It was mine, deeded to me, paid in full. All that time, Karen and her board had been trespassing on my private road. Every lawsuit dollar she spent, every ounce of energy she wasted trying to dominate me, it all collapsed with a single piece of paper. I kept that fact loaded like a weapon, waiting for the perfect moment to fire. And this was it. When Karen got my response, the explosion was instant. She stormed onto my land one last time, letter clutched in her fist. "This is fraud," she shrieked, her voice echoing across the fields. "You can't own that road. It belongs to the community." I stayed calm, leaning on the porch railing. "Check the records, Karen. County clerk's office. The deed's in my name. Always has been." Her face twisted, eyes bulging with disbelief. She sputtered like an engine out of fuel. "That's impossible." "No," I said. "What's impossible is you ever setting foot on this road again. Consider yourself trespassed." By then, neighbors had gathered again, phones raised, recording everything. And when Karen realized she was outnumbered, out-recorded, and completely powerless, something in her snapped. She let out a strangled scream, stomped her heel into the dirt, spun on her heel, and stormed off for the last time. From that day forward, Karen never tried my gate again. The HOA, stripped of its tyrant leader, limped along quietly, its members more interested in lawn care than harassment. And for me, my ranch finally became the sanctuary I'd always envisioned. The gate stood firm, guarding not just my land, but also my dignity. Every time I walked past it, I smiled, not just because I'd won, but because I'd done it the right way. I hadn't stooped to her level of lies and intimidation. I built something strong, held my ground, and let the truth speak louder than her tantrums. Justice doesn't always come from judges or sheriffs. Sometimes it's shaped like a gate that refuses to fall, no matter how many times arrogance tries to knock it down. And that, to me, was the sweetest victory of all. Looking back, I realized this story wasn't really about a gate, or an SUV, or even Karen. It was about boundaries and the courage to defend them. Life will always have people like her. People who think rules don't apply, who push past your limits, who laugh at your warnings and treat no like it means nothing. They'll test you. They'll push until you either bend or you build something stronger. I chose to build. That's the lesson I want to leave with you. Your gate might not be made of steel and wood. It might be your time, your peace of mind, your dignity, or your energy. Whatever it is, don't let anyone stomp all over it just because they think they can. Draw your lines. Reinforce them. And when someone refuses to respect them, don't back down. Because respect isn't freely given, it's earned. And sometimes you have to demand it. So, let me ask you, what's the gate in your life that needs protecting? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story hit home, make sure to subscribe. Because trust me, there are plenty more HOA battles, Karen sagas, and tales of sweet revenge to come.